This week has seen South Africa announce the addition of 7 countries to its visa-free list. Of the 7, only 2 are African nations, Ghana and Sao Tome and Principe. And Senegal and Nigeria book their places in the semi-finals at the ongoing AFCON in Egypt. This is Africa Focus.
Going against the grain, South Africa's women miners redefining industry. Fulani meat market. We are in Nigeria, where the Fulani play an essential part in the country's food supply chain. Morocco's spiritual capital, the imperial city of Fez, is once again attracting tourists.
I'm Lenny Rashid, and our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. Before we get into the main stories, let's take a look at the news that made the headlines around the continent this week.
West African countries who meet conditions should declare together whether they will join a common currency for the region by 2020, Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara said on Tuesday. The idea of a common West African currency was first proposed almost 3 decades ago in the hope of boosting cross-border trade and economic development. But talks have been dogged by disagreements over what some see as the African version of the euro. Last month, the 15-member Economic Community of West African States, known as ECOWAS, agreed to call the planned currency ECO. 8 ECOWAS countries jointly use the franc CFA. They are more to the single European currency and are gathered in an organization called the West African Monetary Union, or WAMU. But the 7 other ECOWAS countries have their own currencies, none of them freely convertible. ECOWAS leaders have already acknowledged that the 2020 target date is unlikely to be met, but have vowed to push on while accepting there are numerous stumbling blocks.
Sudan's telecommunication providers began restoring mobile access to internet weeks after service was cut off following a deadly crackdown on protesters. The country's ruling Transitional Military Council severed internet access after government forces opened fire on demonstrators at a peaceful sit-in outside the army headquarters in Khartoum on June 3rd, killing more than 100 people. A court ordered services restored across Sudan on Tuesday after lawyer Abdelazim Al-Hassan launched a lawsuit challenging the block. The restoration, however, was limited to fixed landlines, prompting the Khartoum-based lawyer to demand it to be extended to 3G and 4G mobile services. Social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter allowed Sudanese to mobilize in weeks leading up to and during the protest that toppled longtime leader Omar al-Bashir. Though al-Bashir was brought down in early April, protests demanding the military cede power to a civilian-led authority persisted.
Nigeria's National Assembly was on lockdown on Tuesday after shots were fired outside during clashes between police and a group of Shiite Muslim protesters. Both sides blamed the other for the shooting. Abdullahi Muhammad Musa, a protester and a member of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, IMN, told reporters that police fired shots at protesters, killing a man in front of him after they peacefully tried to enter the assembly building. He also said tear gas was used against protesters. In a statement, police said 2 officers were shot and wounded in the legs, and 6 other officers were injured by individuals using clubs and stones. They said they had used minimum force to disperse the unruly protesters. IMN, a group that represents Nigeria's minority Shiite Muslims, has protested regularly outside the National Assembly, calling for the release of their leader Ibrahim Zakzakai, who has been in detention since 2015.
Tens of thousands of Algerians gathered in the capital to demand the removal of the ruling elite, keeping up pressure for more rapid change after the end of the 20-year rule of Abdelaziz Bouteflika. The protesters had gathered to demand a break with the elite, which has dominated the oil and gas producer for decades. Algeria's army, the country's most powerful institution, has managed the transition from Bouteflika, but wants to overcome the deadlock rapidly through a presidential election, observers say. A vote had been initially planned for last week, but was postponed by the authorities. The army fears instability in neighboring Libya and in Sahel region, which encourage armed groups to operate in Algeria to exploit the transition. Algeria is an important gas supplier for Europe and a key US partner in the fight against militants in the region. Protesters again called for the removal of interim President Abdelkader Ben Salah and Prime Minister Nourdine Bedoui, who were both seen as close allies of Bouteflika.
Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has said that the country has established anti-terrorism county action plans to reduce threats to the country. President Kenyatta spoke while opening a counter-terrorism conference at the United Nations headquarters in Gigiri. The opening ceremony of the conference, dubbed African Regional High-Level Conference on Counter-terrorism and Prevention of Violent Extremism Conducive to Terrorism, was also addressed by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and African Union Chairperson Moussa Faki Mahamat. The president added that terrorism is a pan-African challenge, and as such, Africa must come up with joint responses and solutions.
And we need to mobilize much more international support.
Moussa Faki, the AU chairperson, said violent extremism was a threat to Africa and solutions to counter it should also include development, saying that the use of force alone will not curb the problem. The conference was attended by thousands of participants from across Africa.
Deep underground, where a huge conveyor belt hold rocks to the surface, 37-year-old mother of two, Bernice Motieloa, represents the quiet revolution transforming the macho culture of South African mining. Motieloa is a shift supervisor at Anglo-America's Bathopele Platinum Mine, one of thousands of female miners employed in the difficult and often dangerous environment traditionally dominated by men.
As shift supervisor, Bernice Motieloa leads a team of 22 workers at Anglo-American's Bathopele Platinum Mine. She's an exception in the traditionally macho culture of South African mining. Her authority is respected, but Bernice remembers her colleagues' attitudes when she first went down the pits 13 years ago.
The men, they didn't like us. So they were telling us straight away that this is the main world, we don't know what you are looking for, and then now you said it's 50-50, you'll do this, you'll do half, I do half. And mind you, the first day or second day, it won't be easy to work like him. So actually you won't enjoy your job.
Women have only been allowed to work in the mines since 1996, after an apartheid-era ban was lifted. Today, 15% of mining employees are women. More than 3,000 of them work underground for Anglo-American Platinum, South Africa's largest private sector employer. And they seem valued by their CEO.
There's lots of work where women are really good. Driving equipment. Often women are better operators of equipment than men are. They're more conscious, they're more diligent, they look after the equipment better.
But 350 meters underground, dangers abound. And for women, the risk of sexual harassment makes it even more dangerous. A female miner was raped and killed in another Anglo-American mine in 2012, and a woman was sexually assaulted in the changing rooms of Bathopele in March 2015.
I was like shocked and didn't trust this environment anymore, like walking alone, what if this happens? So it really had an effect on me as a woman.
Safety was reinforced with surveillance cameras and biometric identification. And in general, female miners say they feel comfortable doing their job.
Up to so far, I haven't had any problem working here. The men I work with behave well here.
Nozuko and Bernice both want to become mine overseers, an ambition that just a few years ago would have been inconceivable.
With a population of about 200 million, Nigeria is the largest meat consumer in West Africa. Every day, 50 trucks unload cows, goats, sheep at the main livestock market in Lagos, the country's economic capital. This is an essential supply chain for Nigeria, whose livestock is mainly raised by the Fulani spread over about 10 West African countries.
Usman has covered more than 500 kilometers with his herd. 10 days to reach the Ilele market in northern Nigeria. The Fulani breeder from Mali says the journey is long but worth it. Cows are worth considerably more in Nigeria than back home.
It's difficult to sell my cows in Mali or Niger. When I come to this international market in Nigeria, I sell them easily and earn good money. I always prefer coming here.
Once the transactions are complete, the majority of the animals are loaded onto trucks. Direction, Lagos, which has 20 million inhabitants to feed.
Cattle alone, at least we are consuming over 200 trucks a week in Lagos here because of the population.
Individuals, intermediaries and supermarkets all come to negotiate the purchase of the 1,000 cows arriving at the Lagos market daily. Prices vary between 350 and 1,000 euros, depending on the size and the cow's health.
If I buy, I will put it inside the vehicle or motor. I will take it to my slaughter. When I go, I will slaughter to sell my customers.
In the midst of a population boom, Nigeria consumes 380,000 tons of beef per year and will consume 3 times more by 2050.
Coming up after the break.
Challenging Barbie, African dolls resonating more with children on the African continent.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Keep it sweet. Welcome back to Africa Focus. According to Morocco's Ministry of Tourism, about 11 million tourists visited Morocco in 2017. Most did not visit the nation's spiritual capital in Fez. However, over the recent times, tourists have overlooked this city in favor of Marrakesh. But now, this culturally rich location is bustling with visitors thanks to major renovations and low-cost flights.
The city of Fez is Morocco's third largest city and was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1981 and has been in a muddled state for eons and lost all its verve and vigor of being a cultural and spiritual destination, especially for tourists who preferred Marrakesh due to its temperate oasis of golden beaches, sprawling deserts and charming local souks. But the rehabilitation and improvement of Fez has brought it out of Marrakesh's shadow, with 1,000 of old buildings, including world's oldest library, Qarawiyyin, being reopened and new direct flights introduced, making it easier to go there. This rehabilitation has also improved the living conditions of its inhabitants at a revamping worth of 30 million euros.
Every year there are a lot of changes and renovations, such as the restoration of the walls of the Fez Oud River. Every year there are changes in the streets and renovations of the tiles. The city looks good now.
Les rues, tu vois, la rénovation des allées, de toute la Médina, maintenant c'est bien, tu vois.
Fez is known for its metal products and Place Sefarin, the metal souk, is the place to go. The coppersmiths who work here pounding copper and brass to produce all sorts of metal products for sale to the tourists. In fact, you can hear Place Sefarin before you actually see it, and the rhythmic sounds of hammer against metal reverberating down the narrow alleys of the Medina.
La plupart des gens qui viennent à l'ancien Médina, qui viennent à Fez,
the first thing that most people want to discover when visiting the old city of Fez are the tanneries. Fez is well known for the leather and copper, especially in the Sefarin Square, where craftsmen work with copper techniques. People are also interested in discovering the weaving mills, the carpets, the Quranic schools and the monuments.
Après, il y a le tissage, il y a les tapis, tu vois. Et après, il y a les madrasas, les monuments.
Fez is famous for its leather products, and most of it is known to come from the leather bazaar, commonly known as souk. The souk is home to 3 tanneries, and the largest and oldest being the Chouara tannery, which is about 1,000 years old. All the processes at the tannery are achieved manually, and the only machine they have is a 60-year-old water wheel machine that is used to clean the leather, and this has not changed since medieval times, a very fascinating sight to watch. The choking smell of the raw hide doesn't bother the tourists, who shop without a care as they move from one shop to the other.
From what we hear, this tannery is 12 centuries old. It has been renovated 3 times. The last one was in 2015. The state of the tanneries is much better today because before it wasn't safe for the tourists to walk near the basins.
Today, a journey to Fez is timeless and memorable, painting a picture of tranquility, beauty, and restoration.
With his pilgrim's staff and Panama hat, Father Godfrey Nzamujo nips up and down in the paths of Songhai, the organic farm he created nearly 30 years ago as a tool against poverty and rural migration in Africa. Born in Nigeria and raised in California, where he studied agronomics, economics, and information technology, Father Nzamujo began his mission of ending poverty through agribusiness when he saw images of famines happening in Africa in the 1980s.
Organic tomatoes and chicken droppings turned into biogas. At the Songhai farm in Benin, nothing goes to waste. In the 30 years since it was set up by Godfrey Nzamujo, it's become a model for farming in Africa. Its aims? Maximize yields without using chemicals, which are expensive for farmers and harmful to health.
It's not just any production, but clean production, a production which ensures good health for producers, consumers, and for the soil. We really put agriculture at the center of nature and people.
From just one parcel of land in 1985, Songhai now sprawls over 24 hectares. All the produce is grown and distributed on site, creating a microeconomy.
We fixed this image of Africa, Africa holding out its hand, Africa the victim. But when you look at the young people today, they're standing tall, ready to fight and to seize the future.
Every day, an army of staff and apprentices get their hands dirty, growing fruit, vegetables and rice, whilst also tending fish and raising livestock. Paul wants to follow his parents into farming, but make it more profitable.
With modern methods, things take less time. What we used to do in 2 days, we now do in 2 hours. That's what's impressed me most at Songhai.
As well as tackling the challenges of poverty and the environment, Songhai prizes education, and it's also a school. Every year, 400 students are selected and trained. Back in their villages, they'll put modern organic techniques into practice. Songhai has been used as a blueprint to take the concept outside Benin. Centres are already open in Nigeria, Sierra Leone and Liberia. And with 13 other countries in West and Central Africa in the pipeline, many farms will be hoping to put their experience at Songhai into practice.
Ubongo Kids is an animated educational TV series produced in Tanzania which helps kids find the fun in learning. The cartoons are animated in English, French, Kiswahili, Kinyarwanda, Kikuyu, and Luo, with more languages to come. According to the creators of the cartoon series, approximately 11 million households across Africa watch, listen, and learn from the cartoons every week.
Imagine a world of elephants, giraffes and monkeys that talk, do maths and love science. This is Ubongo Kid, a cartoon set in such a fantasy world that has become Tanzania's most widely watched TV program. The startup Ubongo Media produces the show on the fringes of Dar es Salaam, the country's buzzing economic hub, following the educational adventures of a young boy and his furry friends each week. Ubongo Media's artistic director taught singing for 15 years in primary schools before creating Ubongo Kid with 4 others. He is passionate about making learning fun for kids, inspired by his own memories of school.
When I was in primary school, I was hearing that mathematics is very hard subject. And sometimes I didn't understand teacher in mathematics, not because I don't know mathematics, but the language teacher used to teach me mathematics. I didn't see the relation between mathematics with my life when I was a kid.
Recently translated into English and broadcast in Kenya and Uganda, some 1.2 million viewers tune in to Ubongo Kid each week. It's a welcome resource in many African nations struggling with a shortage of school materials.
I've always liked division, but it's very difficult in math class at school. Ubongo Kid helps me learn division better. Now I understand it, and there's no problem anymore for me. My teacher was very surprised.
The team is now working on a new cartoon to help teach English to children aged 3 to 7, planning to market it in other African nations as well as Asia.
In Burkina Faso, the creators of African dolls hope that their toys will resonate more with children of the continent than the typical blue-eyed Barbie dolls. But the uncertain security situation in Burkina Faso means that sales figures are never certain.
In Burkina Faso, a new-look doll is hitting the shops. Challenging the typical blue-eyed Barbies, these dolls are designed to resonate more with the local population.
I see these beautiful dolls. Normally we always see European dolls. It's the first time I'm seeing something like this here, and I'm happy. I want to buy some for my friends.
The dolls are locally made, by Africans, for Africans.
All the dolls are made from African materials. We're trying to get a lot of people engaged with these dolls, to buy things that are 100% from here.
In her Ouagadougou workshop, Abibou crafts the dolls with the help of 6 employees. She believes that the African dolls could go on to reach the same levels of success as more well-known models.
La Barbie africaine, pourquoi pas, parce qu'on en a besoin.
An African Barbie doll, why not? We need something like that. We still like white Barbies, but when the doll looks like this, there's a greater resemblance. You can dress them like yourself, style the hair like your own, with curly hair. You're immediately more connected with it.
For a long while, the business was going from strength to strength. But recently, sales have slowed down, owing to the uncertain security situation in Burkina Faso. The threat of jihadist terror attacks has kept away both the tourists and the wholesale buyers that represented a large part of their market. But Abibou hopes business will pick up again soon, and she'll be able to supply more African children with dolls that they can identify with.
On Africa Focus, we love hearing from you, so make sure you get interactive with us on our various social media pages. Remember, you can view this program along with our wide array of other programs on DSTV channel 268, on Zuku TV channel 53, and on Azam TV channel 138. On behalf of the entire team here on Africa Focus, thank you for keeping us company on this exciting journey. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Keep it switched.